Welcome to 3D Design and Animation, and this first video is about the layout of Blender. On the very beginning, when you open up Blender, you'll see the splash screen that'll tell you the version that you're working with. It'll also show recent files that you have opened. I'm going to click out of that. The default view is where you will start in Blender. You can configure this to other options, but by default, it starts off with 5 editors. The very first editor is this information toolbar. And if I click on this, it's already selected, but it just says info. And we can get into where we save files, things like that. If I go over to where it has the default listing right at the moment, I could change the way I want to use my tools in general. So I'm going to go to video editing. And here I can see tools often associated with the video editing process. And click on this again, go back to default. As we go through the course, you might find that you want to make a custom view for working with your scenes that automatically have the windows open that you want. However, if you are saving a file, you'll often find that the windows actually return to when you saved your file. So you might not even need to change this or add another one. But it's nice for if you have new projects that you want to start and you always want to have the same layout, you can customize your layout and then you can set that as the layout that it opens with. The main window here is the 3D viewport. And we'll get into some more detail on the next video about the 3D viewport, and I'll come back to a few of the things I want you to be aware of in just a moment. We have the outliner, we have the properties editor over here, and at the very bottom we have the timeline. In the 3D viewport, for the 3D viewport or any of the other editors as well, if you put your mouse right over that editor and you press Shift and Spacebar, you'll make that editor fill up the screen. And if I press Shift and Spacebar again, it'll close it out. Any of them that I do this with, it'll let them, again, fill up the screen. And it's just a handy way to switch your focus so that you're all on one particular thing to see as much screen real estate as possible in that window. In the 3D viewport, I actually like to make my menus a little bit larger for when I'm working with students. So I'm going to move this one so it's a little bit wider, but then if I hit Control and push down the middle mouse button, I can actually enlarge the text so that it's there. I can also do that with my menu over here. Control, make it larger, and then if I want to, I can actually line up over that window and pull it a little bit wider. You can also add editors if you want, instead of just changing an editor. So for instance, if I go up into this little box here, I could change the editor. Maybe I want a second 3D viewport. I could click on it. I have it here. If I move something in this one, it moves something in the main editor as well. But if I want, I'm going to switch it back to Outliner here. If I want a totally different editor, I can click on these 3 lines, and you'll notice that in every editor there's those same 3 lines, and I can actually click and drag to the left will add an editor. If I click on that same thing and I pull down, it'll also add an editor, but instead of horizontally, it'll add it vertically. To get rid of an editor, I need to click and move my mouse the other way. So it won't work to remove this editor by clicking and pulling up, but it will if I go over here and I click and I pull up. I can remove the top editor right now. If I let go of the mouse, it'll take the bottom one and replace the top one with it. If I move my mouse down before I let go of the mouse button, it'll actually take the top one and move that into the space that's down below. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and let go of the mouse button. now I have that editor here. If I go and take this one and pull to the left, nothing happens because this has two editors that are split over this. The sides of the editors have to match in length, otherwise you can't replace the one with the other. It won't do weird shapes. Okay, so over here though, I can go to this one, and if I wanted this editor here to take over the other spot instead of this editor taking over this spot, I just move my mouse over to the other side, let go, and now I have that view of the scene filling it up. This can be very handy for some of the different tasks that we might do. You might want to be able to see additional editors, or you might want to be able to see 2 or 3 different views of your object. There's also a quad view that we can look at, and we'll get into that in the next video.